Coming up, the Orioles catch up to the Rays in the AL East. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. Local experts join us, and we recap all of the action for you from yesterday across Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Now, 2 games back in the AL Central, the Guardians lost to a last-place team in the Pirates yesterday. Cleveland's desperate for wins right now. Locked On Guardians recaps the missed opportunity on Wednesday.
Take 2 on this one. Realized last time we tried to do a unfiltered now, my thumb was annoyingly in the corner. But speaking of annoying, Guardians fall today. Wouldn't it be great to have a good defensive shortstop? Oh, there are 2 on the roster, just not the one who's playing every day. Yes, Ahmed is hitting better. He's been a league average bat over the last month as a hitter, but that is a very basic throw. That is a throw that I feel like most non-baseball players could make, and failing to make that throw leads to a huge inning, leads to Cleveland losing this game. You have to make that throw to get the double play. That is the turning point in this whole game. Josh Bell goes deep. Another homer for him. Miles Straw has a 2-8 game and steals 2 bases. Rare positive game for him as well. Savali had a solid start. Hench has had a rough July, but you almost felt like they're going to lose this one because they can't put anything consistently together this year. That has been the story. 1 sweep all year. This should have been 2. It's the story of the Guardians. No consistency over the course of the year.
The Rangers won their 6th game in a row, and the Rays lost their 4th game in a row. That pulled Tampa into a tie for the AL East lead for the first time since March. Locked On Rangers goes over the big win for Texas.
What an incredible game. The Rangers win 5-1, complete the sweep of the Rays in one of the most action-packed games for the Texas Rangers this season. I'm Bryce Patrick, host of the Locked On Rangers podcast. This was a huge win for the Rangers. They had John Gray on the hill, who left after 4 1/3 innings after taking a scary 112-mile-an-hour liner off his leg. Thankfully, x-rays were negative there, but the Rangers were clinging to a 1-run lead, and in comes Brock Burke for 2 fantastic innings of work, and then on comes Alex Spees to make his major league debut, gets a strike him out, throw him out double play. What a way to enter. Strikes out 3 in an inning and 2/3 and makes Randy Arozarena look absolutely foolish, losing his bat with one of his strikeouts there. A big home run for Leo Taveras, give the Rangers a lead, another RBI for him, and then a 3-run bomb by Jonah Heim to give the insurance runs late on. Massive win for the Rangers, hoping that Adolis Garcia is okay after he left the game with injury as well.
Hey, this is Kevin Weiss from the Locked On Rays podcast. Unfortunately, the Tampa Bay Rays get swept by the Texas Rangers, and it was sort of an ongoing theme throughout the series of lack of offense, not doing damage with runners in scoring position. And the Rays, interestingly, hit a decent amount of home runs, but they were all solo shots in the series. So something has to change, something has to give, as the Rays are now 3-11 in the month of July, and things don't get any easier as they will welcome the Baltimore Orioles to town for a 4-game set. So it should be a really, really fun, heated battle for determining possibly who's the best team in the AL East.
The Cardinals scored 4 runs in the first inning, and they never trailed after that against the Marlins. Locked On Cardinals tells us more about the hot streak that has St. Louis winning 5 games in a row.
The Cardinals continue to roll, sweeping the Miami Marlins. Hey, it's JD from Locked On Cardinals. And on Wednesday, the boys had the task of trying to beat the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner and former Cardinal Sandy Alcantara. Challenge accepted. They played 4 in the first inning with 2 outs on an RBI single by Nolan Arenado, and then a 3-run blast by the other Nolan Gorman, who's just been on fire recently. They take a 4-0 lead. The Fish cut that score to 4-2 against starter Dakota Hudson, but that was as close as they would get in this one, as the Birds scored 2 more in the 7th inning and hung on to win this one 6-4 and get the 3-game sweep of Miami. That's now 5 straight wins and 8 out of their last 10 heading into Chicago to face the Cubs in a 4-game set. The team is enjoying one of their best stretches of baseball all season. The problem is, it might be too little, too late. For the latest updates and info, be sure to keep it Locked On Cardinals.
Yan Gomes got the go-ahead RBI on his birthday, and Nico Hoerner hit a grand slam in the 8th to lift the Cubs over the Nationals yesterday. Locked On local experts have more on an exciting finish.
Cubs with a nice win back-to-back nights against Washington tonight. It was 3-1 Cubs in the 8th inning, a lead that felt pretty comfortable. And then Julian Merriweather gave up that lead, made it 3-3. And it was really nice to see the Cubs bounce back in the bottom of the 8th inning. Yan Gomes with a pinch hit, go-ahead sac fly. And then Nico Hoerner with a big-time first career grand slam to break the game open. Cubs win 8-3. Back-to-back nights, it kind of in the box score looks like a blowout, but the Cubs and Nats really played a pretty tight series all the way through. Cubs were able to win back-to-back games late, win the series, and now they host their arch rival, literally, the St. Louis Cardinals for 4 games at Wrigley Field. Probably need to win 3 of them to stay around, but nice win tonight from the Cubs.
Ryan Clary from Locked On Nationals here. The Chicago Cubs beat the Washington Nationals 8-3. That 8th inning, what the heck happened? You tied the game there. It's 3-3, and then all of a sudden Mason Thompson comes in, and oh my God, gets blown up there. 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th. This was just not a good game overall. You look at Lane Thomas, 0 for 5 tonight. C.J. Abrams did have 2 hits in tonight's game. And also Lane Thomas, only 2 hits in the Chicago Cubs series. The bats were just not that great overall. Let's just be honest there. Last night, they went cold, and the bullpen came in. They blew it. In tonight's game, the offense ties it up at 3-3. And then ultimately, guess what? The bullpen came in, and we lost the game. That was it for us. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy the day off tomorrow.
Coming up, efficient offense gets the A's a win over the Red Sox. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. The same thing goes for your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for that green check. Stay in the game with eBay Motors. Guaranteed fit. Head over to ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm Kainani Stevens. The Astros are trying their best to keep pace with the Red Hot Rangers right now. They beat the Rockies in Colorado yesterday. Locked On hosts with both teams have more after things finished up.
Hey there, H.M. Wheelhouse with Locked On Astros, and the Astros beat the Rockies 4-1. They leave to head to Oakland for a 4-game set before coming home. Brendan Bielak was the man of the hour, notching his second win in July. He's 2-1 now, has not given up a home run, only 2 earned runs this month. That wasn't the case in May and June. Brendan Bielak has looked so much better, so focused, used his experience of pitching at high altitude, moving up in his career, especially in the minor leagues, to take advantage of pitching in Denver. And Chaz Chomps, that's right. The Chaz Chomp keeps rolling through and steamrolling and making the case of why he should be the Houston Astros everyday center fielder. So with that being said, on the next Locked On Astros, go check it out. He will give you an update on Jose Urquidy and Yordan Alvarez's first game back from his IL stint and where they are headed going forward and what trades are being made right now. So stay tuned in to Locked On Astros and make us your team every day. Go Stros.
The A's got 6 runs with just 2 swings of the bat with a pair of 3-run homers to beat the Red Sox on Wednesday. Locked On Red Sox goes over a rough way to take a loss.
Not really a whole lot to say about today at all. I'm incredibly frustrated. I mean, that was one of Bayo's worst starts of the season. He was due for an outing like that, but I mean, come on, it's Oakland. He clearly doesn't like day games because his stats are significantly worse in day games than when he pitches at night. So I definitely expected a bounce back today. After last night, I was like, whatever, you lost a game against Oakland. It's not ideal, but it sucks. So let's just bounce back. And I really thought that they were going to show up and win today. And Oakland gave them so many chances too with all those errors, but it wasn't enough. Alex Verdugo needs to wake back up. I'm not sure what's been going on with him, but he's in a really, really big slump right now, so that needs to change. Hopefully, the Red Sox can take the off day to just kind of get back into it and then bounce back against the Mets at Fenway this weekend.
The new NL Central leaders stayed hot last night with the Brewers beating the Phillies in Philadelphia. Locked On Brewers has a full recap.
Payamps mania continues to rage on. 2 strikeouts there in the 8th inning. Milner, Payamps, Peguero. Williams ran a little trouble in the 9th inning, but he got the job done. His 24th save. The Brewers win 5-3 in Philadelphia. How about that? They blew the lead. Colin Ray, hey, let's not forget about him. 5 innings, 3 earned runs. I'll take that from Colin Ray every single time. And the guy who I think really is the offensive MVP of this team is William Contreras. He had 3 hits, big RBI in that 7th inning, that RBI double, put the Brewers out in front after they blew the early 3-0 lead. And this thing, I was worried it was going to go in the wrong direction, but the Brewers recovered. They had an attack-on run there in the 9th, and then Williams, Piamps, Hobie Milner, Piguero, those guys, amazing. Brewers have split the series. We'll talk more about it coming up on Locked On Brewers a little bit later on, everybody.
Coming up, the Yankees cannot pull off the comeback against the Angels. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. The White Sox will have to try and avoid a sweep today after they lost to the Mets again last night. Locked On White Sox tells us exactly what went wrong for Chicago.
The Chicago White Sox lost to the New York Mets 5-1 on Wednesday night. Hey, I'm Nick Morawski from Locked On White Sox. It was just classic vintage Justin Verlander. He absolutely was dominating on Wednesday against our White Sox. He went 8 innings. He threw 100 pitches, sprinkled some hits, gave up a home run to Luis Robert Jr., who has hit him well in a small sample size. But really, Sox could just not do anything with Verlander. White Sox are now 17 games under 500 as they try to avoid the sweep on Thursday afternoon with Michael Kopech on the hill against Jose Quintana, making his first appearance in 2023 for the Mets. For more, check out the Locked On White Sox podcast.
Well, if the New York Mets can consistently get that version of Justin Verlander, they might actually be a good team after all, although it'll still take a lot of work to get there. This is Ryan Finkelstein, the host of Locked On Mets, and this Mets team working on a little bit of a 3-game winning streak here, winning the first 2 of their series against the White Sox, which means a series win. Great for the club. Brett Beatty homered in back-to-back games. That was good to see, but it was Justin Verlander that was the big story. 8 strong innings really helped ease the burden on a taxed bullpen. The Mets needed every bit of that, and they're going to need a lot more of it if they really are going to find their way to make a miraculous push in the second half. We'll be discussing that. Of course, Verlander, Beatty, and also Starling Marte being out of the lineup with migraines on tomorrow's edition of Locked On Mets.
The Reds won a matchup of 2 potential playoff teams when they beat the Giants yesterday, and our Locked On Reds host has more after that win.
The Cincinnati Reds found out 2 key things in their win on Wednesday night over the San Francisco Giants. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and Graham Ashcraft is back. Very good pitching performance by him. Worked around some walks and some troubles with not throwing pitches in the strike zone in the 5th inning, but he relied on his defense and pitched into the 7th inning, although he didn't get any outs in the 7th inning. But it was very good to see that, him helping the bullpen out just a little bit. Speaking of the bullpen, Alexis Diaz looked absolutely brilliant in the 9th inning. Shut down the Giants. They couldn't do anything at all with either one of his fastball or his slider, which that was great to see. And hey, Will Benson with a 3-run bomb to left center field in the 3rd inning. That's all the Reds needed. You love to see it when they give enough runs to a good pitching performance. Maybe this is a turning point for the Redlegs as they get back on the winning trail. Got a lot to talk about. Join me on the next Lockdown Reds.
6 runs in the first 3 innings allowed the Angels to cruise to a win over the Yankees. And Locked On Angels and Yankees have more.
Oh, hi, I was just cleaning my house, and I decided I would just jump in here to let you know that the Angels swept the New York Yankees. Hey, everybody, it's Mike Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels. Angels get the sweep over the Yankees on Wednesday night, 7-3, led by their pitching. Chase Silseth was their 6th starter, just called up from the minor leagues, struck out 10. That was a career high, looked phenomenal. Bullpen held it, and the offense looked strong. Taylor Ward hit a home run, Louis Rengifo hit a home run, and then Shohei Ohtani's getting the Barry Bonds treatment. He walked 4 times in this game. And this win was doubly important, and we'll explain why on Locked On Angels. I'm going to go back to cleaning now. Thanks.
The last thing the New York Yankees needed was to get swept in Anaheim. And that's exactly what happened. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias of Locked On Yankees, and the Yankees dropped the finale in Anaheim 7-3. Carlos Rodon, 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 6 runs. 2 home runs, 5 walks, which didn't help him with those 2 home runs. But hey, he struck out Shohei Ohtani. That's cool, I guess. Giancarlo Stanton hits a home run, solo shot. It's his 390th of his career. Kyle Higashioka had an RBI single. And, Yankees scored 3 runs on Wednesday night. They only got 2 hits on Tuesday night. So there's an improvement for you. There's a positive for you. So we'll have everything you need to know about this game on the next Locked On Yankees, and we'll be joined by the boys from Locked On Angels, who I'm sure will be rubbing it in my face that their team just swept the Yankees. So tune in for that.
The Twins took a lead in the late innings. They needed that victory to keep the Guardians from getting closer to the division lead. Locked On Twins goes over the finish from Seattle.
The Minnesota Twins won 6-3 against Seattle on Wednesday, and honestly, it'd be hard to find just one story to focus on. Kenta Maeda was great with 9 strikeouts and allowed just 2 earned runs in 6 1/3, with just 3 hits as he continues to make his way back into form. Edouard Julien was 2 for 2 with a homer and 2 walks, and now has an OPS of .968. Alex Kirilloff shook off 4 strikeouts to hit a home run in the 9th inning to give the Twins some valuable insurance runs. Joan Duran threw a fastball of 104.8 miles per hour, which is the fastest pitch in MLB in more than 5 years since Jordan Hicks touched 105 back on May 20th, 2018. Now the Twins will go for a series win against Seattle, and then they'll face them at home next week as they wrap up the entire season series in the span of 10 days. Today's stat you won't see anywhere else. This is the 20th time the Twins have thrown strikes at least 70% of the time. Only one team has done it more often, the Seattle Mariners with 22. This is Locked On Twins.
That's a wrap for this edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB. As always, we thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Now that we're in the second half of the MLB season, make sure you're subscribed to Locked On MLB and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.